Right, this is us entering Larkhall from Hamilton.
Everybody goes to church, doesn't it cost them very much to worship when the pub's shut? But they tell me that once you're over the wall, it really isn't all that bad at all. A Freemason can really have a ball. And Larkhall, up in Larkhall, drums and flutes, marching boots, purple suits and banners, and that's just the town planners. Songs are sung of battles won by every loyal son and daughter, lambs to the slaughter. When everybody walks in pairs and every step they take declares their hatred, nothing is sacred. God wears a fib, a scarf, and the sun sets.
This is us coming up to Larkhall Cross. And the pub, the Village Tavern on your right, was the first pub that I was ever in, where I had my first pint. It was a man and his daughter called Hodge that used to run it. And they always had an advert in the local paper, and it was, "Try Hodge's creamy pints." This is Union Street, one of the main thoroughfares in Larkhall, or the only thoroughfare in Larkhall. Most of the shops have changed hands. There's still the odd one who's been there for years. And that's just passing where the Regal Cinema used to be. And this church here on your right was derelict at one time, and the Catholic Church tried to buy it, but they wouldn't sell it to them. They didn't want Catholics in the main thoroughfare.
Right and wrong from the words they see spray painted on the buildings, and then their own children grow up just the very same way, an attitude that has never changed for decades. It's just a wee place, but they tell me that once you're over the wall, it really isn't all that bad at all. And the distance to the moon is very small. And Larkhall, up in Larkhall.
This is 44 Rappler Street. This is where I lived for about 10 years when I was a boy. This was our bedroom here, where the whole family slept. My mother, my father, my brother, my sister and myself slept in one farm. This was Macmillan's chip shop, which was a great place to hang about, because the men got up and down to the dog track there. If they won, they used to buy you a poke of chips. So we used to hang about here when it was dog racing night. This is a famous close where we used to play Headies as a kid. That was our house in there, so nobody gave us into a row for doing it. That's Macmillan's chip shop, so it didn't annoy anybody. And we used to come through here, and this was our house here. Everybody came to our house because it was the first house in Rappler Street that had anybody living in it. We had a big stone there, which was worn away with people sharpening their knives. And over here in the green, it was just amazing, you know. We used to play here, jump up in the dyke, smashing. An old boy called McParlin stayed over there, and if our ball went into his garden, he used to stab it with a knife and throw it back to us again. Nice old man. And we had great times here. I remember 60 years ago, it was the Queen's coronation, and nobody had organised anything. There were no street parties or anything like that. But Jim Welsh and I, who lived up here, we decided we were going to have a coronation party. And we started collecting boxes and stuff out, anything to be thrown out, and we started piling it up. Well, as people come home from their work, men come home from their work, they said, oh, great idea. So they brought stuff in. We got railway sleepers, we put them on. We got old tyres, we put them on. And it was the best party I've ever been. I still remember it yet, this party. Everybody came to it. Now, Macmillan's chip shop, they put fish suppers on for everybody. I don't know how many people were there, maybe 30, 40 people there, but they put fish suppers on for everybody. Some women went and they got lemonade. My mother, she got penny caramels. She went down to a wee shop there and she got 40 penny caramels, and everybody got a penny caramel. And people baked, women baked, made sausage rolls, and it was just a fantastic night. People brought drink in, and everybody was there. It was such a great time, you know, and it was just happened because we decided we wanted a bonfire. There's this old bloke that stayed across the road from us, and it was his turn to get chosen for the High Hegians in the Orange Lodge. So they came to pick him up, and they had a few cans of beer outside his house. And then at night when they come back, they'd obviously had more than a few cans of beer, you know, and there were all this singing going on about what they'd like to do to Catholics and all that. And my old man, about 75, he opened the bedroom window and he shouted out at him, you know, hey, have less of that noise, you know, people are trying to get to sleep. And the reply was, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. McCann, it's no you we're shouting about, it's these other fiends down the road. And here we are, at the centre of Larkhall Cross. This used to be the Continental Cafe here, and the Continental Fish and Chip Shop, an amazing place. The streets, the corners used to be full of miners, standing about, talking, wandering about, going for a walk, and then down in their hunkers. Used to sit that way for hours and then get up and just walk away. I remember one day was the biggest orange walk that ever came to Larkhall. There were hundreds of people marching up and down this street. People from all over the country. In fact, from different parts of the world too. There were even black orangemen walking up and down here. They don't have them as big as that now. My mother had bought us a tartan shirt and had a fringe on the chest, a fringe. And I went out and all the women were standing. It was really good, you know, beautiful music. And I thought, well, these people, you know, they don't like me because I'm a Catholic, you know. And I always imagined that this building here, that I would get a machine gun, and the next time there were a walk, I'd get this machine gun and shoot them all down. I was only 10 at the time, by the way, you know, I'd watched too many gangster movies, I think. Anyway, I went along and told my father, and said to him, you know, what I was going to do, and he says, oh son, don't be so stupid. He says, these people are just the same as us. He says, you work with them, he says, they're good lads. He says, this is their day out, he says, so just forget it. So I says, Mama, well that's okay, I will forget about it. I says, but can you take this orange fringe off my shirt? She says, do you not like it, son? I says, no, not really. So she undid it all and took it off, and I marched up quite proud that I wasn't an orangeman. I never had any Catholic friends. I always played with Protestant boys because there wasn't any Catholics down here. I think we were the only Catholic that stayed in this building, you know. I used to play with Jim Welsh and his brothers, Bertie and Andrew. And I had a really good friend, Billy Mitchell, who stayed down Crossgates. We had some great times with Billy, you know. His father used to breed Alsatian dogs, and we'd take the dogs for walks, and we'd go and glean for potatoes in the field across there. His mother would make all sorts of things with rendered down dripping and make chips and fritters. Great life. Anyway, when I left, we moved away from here. We moved up to the new house in the estate. I sort of more or less lost touch with Billy, as happens, you know. But anyway, one day I come home and my mother says, Mrs. Mitchell was up, she wants you to go down, you know. So I comes away down and then to see Mrs. Mitchell, and she was telling us that Billy was seriously ill in hospital. And she says she didn't like asking me this, she says, but she wondered that I could go down to the chapel and ask the priest to say a special mass for Billy to get better. He had taken something wrong with his brain, he had a virus in the brain, and it was very serious, he was nearing death, you know. Anyway, what happened was that Billy, he did get better. I don't know if it was anything to do with the mass, but he got better and he survived it, you know. I met him years later in Glasgow Central Station, and he was an electrician on the railway, and with a good old natter, you know. But yeah, great times. Turning into Raploch Road here, which is the way down to the Catholic school. My father used to tell us that they couldn't get the Catholic school any further away from Larkhall, so they put it down here, right next to the slaughterhouse. And here it is. Where's the school? St Mary's School now?
It's in Academy Street.
Where?
Academy Street.
Is it over there where the academy is it? They knocked this one down out of the new building.
Burned this one down.
Oh, they burnt that down, did they?
Oh, it's last tunnel.
Was it? Mm-hmm. Nice old building that was the same, isn't it?
That's a good building, all right.
I got the belt a few times in there. This is a school. This is the St Mary's Roman Catholic Chapel. It was so close to the school and we were never out. They always had us in for choir practice. I had a friend called Hugh McCardle. He thought he was a bit of a chanter. He loved singing. And we were in one day singing away, and the teacher was parading up and down to make sure things were okay. And big Hugh, he was singing away, and he was singing, "Faith of our fathers, holy faith, we will be true to thee till death." And the next thing, the teacher walked back and he clapped him right in the back of the head and says, "That's enough from you, Bing Crosby." You know, I know I was born and brought up here, and I says, I had a great time in Larkhall. I didn't have any Catholic friends. No, I had at school, but they all stayed in Strother Hill. I stayed down in Larkhall. No, my friends were Protestant, you know. And this is the interior of St Mary's Roman Catholic Church, Larkhall. I spent many an hour in here. I used to love devotions and benediction with the smell of the incense burning. It was great. My father's uncle donated 2 stained glass windows to this church, and every time I come here I always like to look at them. My mother and my father, they were buried from this church. My father was probably christened here. My sister was christened here, and it just brings back so many memories. It's changed dramatically since I came here as a boy. I used to love coming here because there was something about it. It was old and it was permanent. There was something about it that was permanent, and it gave me sort of probably my first insight to art. You know, the stained glass windows and the Stations of the Cross. So yeah, I think that's the reason why I like old things and art, because of this. Did you ever want to be a nun? No. No. Well, I think everybody goes through this period, you know. I knew people told us you couldn't be a priest because you've got to be really clever. I says, I'll become a monk then. And he says, you've got to be really clever to become a monk, and you're not that smart. He says, but you can become a lay brother. But by the time that came, I didn't fancy it. So this is what it looked like to me. The priest, this is what they saw. They could see everything, couldn't they? I made my first Holy Communion here, and I was confirmed here too. I got into a lot of trouble when I was confirmed because I thought the Pope was coming to confirm us. And I told this Protestant, I says, the Pope's coming to Larkhall, he's going to confirm us. And he couldn't believe this, you know. He says, it can't be the Pope. I says, it is the Pope. Anyway, battered us because the Pope was coming to Larkhall. But anyway, I made my first Holy Communion here, and it was great. People were getting dressed up. Wee boys dressed up in white satin suits, and the wee girls done up in beautiful veils and long dresses and what have you. And most of the boys had, we used to call white gutties or sand shoes. But my mother, she always had to get the best for us. And I remember she went into Glasgow and she got for me a pair of kid shoes. And when she come back with them, you know, I says, well, what are these? And she says, they're kid, you know. I says, I don't want kid, I want a pair of gutties. I want a pair of sand shoes because after I get my first communion, I can use them for running. And my mother says, do you know what these things are made out of? They're made out of kid. What's a kid? And I says, I don't know what a kid is. She says, it's a young deer. What do young deers do? I says, they run fast. She says, exactly. And she says, when you put these shoes on, she says, you'll be able to run fast. So sure as devils, I put the shoes on and I could run faster than anybody with them on. And that was my mother. Kidology was great in her life. This is the Avon Street area of Larkhall. It's completely changed from when I grew up here. The whole place was full of miners' rows, two-storey miners' rows, right on the edge of this gorge here, which goes right down to the Avon, and full of these beautiful trees. It was a great place to play when you were a kid. I had two old aunties, as I call them. They weren't really my aunties, but they're two old women, a daughter and her mother, old Irish women. And they looked after my uncle. He was the youngest of the family, my father's family, and she looked after him. They took him in and more or less adopted him. And when he went away to England to work, they were left on their own. So my father used to send us across every week, my brother and I, with 2 pails of coal each. It was about a 15-minute walk from the house. And we'd take them right over to the edge of the forest where they lived, upstairs, into this house, which was gas lit. And they were over the moon when they saw us. They just loved company. And they'd done a lot of baking. They were always expecting us, and they'd made cakes and scones and sausage rolls, and my brother and I just loved it. After we'd eaten, they would sit down and they would put a couple of rakers of coal in the fire and sit and chat. And they were the most wonderful storytellers, these old women. They used to tell us these ghost stories, which really terrified my brother and I, you know. And we'd always this big walk home in the dark to look forward to, you know. And as we were sitting there, listening to these stories, the old woman would be turning the gas down very gently, and it was getting darker and darker and darker, and the stories were getting more terrifying. And just as it came to the end of the story, the frightening part, she would turn the gas out completely and go, "Ah!" She would scream, you know, and we were terrified, you know. And then she would turn around and say, "Well, I think it's about time you two boys were away home." And our beautiful Irish brogue, you know. And we were terrified going out of the house, and the wind would be blowing, the trees would be making this horrible noise, and we'd run up the road with 4 empty coal pails. We'll be back. Faith of our fathers, holy faith, we will be true to thee till death.